So 1990, he came out after he was released from jail. I think it was Robben Island. If I'm wrong, please you can make any a comment of correction, correcting me. But the way when I remember when I went to South Africa after when Thabo Mbeki was the president, I didn't see much of, anyway, I will come to that. But people were criticizing headlines, bad things about Winnie Mandela. And I think it was wrong because Winnie Mandela did so much and she was a true leader. Yeah, she was radical. And it makes sense that she was radical, it made really sense. Um, like she always say, I didn't marry the man, I married the cause. And that was true. And I understand when you have been through all that, there is no way to be like, she was radical. And sometimes I feel like the headlines criticizing her I mean, moment they were saying, oh, she was kidnapping people and whatever. I didn't truly believe them. Why? Because I felt like they were trying to tarnish her image and her legacy, and I think it's wrong. I think it was really wrong. So me, I'm a strong lover, admirer of Winnie Mandela. No matter what people can say, she was an African, a woman, a leader. So Mandela came in 1991 in Libreville. I perfectly remember euphoria, happiness because we were getting ready to welcome him, you know, and we were getting ready to welcome him, and it was like people were really ready, and people were even, learning and practicing the South African national anthem, even though we didn't understand the word. So even me, I could hear people. And so I learned that very early there. I was probably 10 years old, 9 or 10 years old. Yeah. So when it came, no, I was 11, 10 or 11. I was 10 years old. So it was really clear. I remember that. So when he came to my country, I knew he was coming. And when he came, I always remember that there was, because I wasn't living far from our neighborhood wasn't far from the airport area. So when someone of great figure was coming, you will know, you will hear for sure. It's a small town. And then he went to our neighborhood, like our main street. So that day, I remember it was maybe an afternoon, maybe after 12, I don't, something like that. When he came, I don't remember, yes, I mean, it was in the day or afternoon, like early afternoon. When he came, he was in the car, I mean, he was standing. And I was hearing people were rushing everywhere, running. And my parents didn't like when we left the gate of the house, like opened the gate and when we did, but my mom, they didn't like it first thing that happened in the past. And but then when you have someone of this such personality, such charisma, such you know, I run. I went outside too. I wanted to see Mandela. I wanted to see him. There was no way I could not see that man. I was only 10 years old, and I knew for sure who he was. And there were many people. Of course, it was just well. And then when they drive like that, they're driving fast. So sometimes they're driving slow because he wanted to touch also the people. He wanted to thank the people. And people were screaming his name, but also the word of he had a word that he was always saying. And I think people were saying these words when they were fighting at the time of the apartheid, if I remember that. So African National Congress (ANC) was, I think, his political party. So 1991, he came to Gabon and even did a donation. I remember for a high school that was one of the best high school in town, the high school Nelson Mandela. Then he left. 1992, 1993, 1994. I think that's when officially the end of the apartheid. But I always say that, but because the system that has been living for years and decades cannot disappear like that. And I understand that it was a long process. What I've learned, sometimes when I live in a country, I still try to know what happened after I leave, after I was there, or just I'm very curious. So I've been reading some news about the country, and I think I don't know. I read that the rate of violence, I think violence and security is very high in South Africa still today, very high. I don't know if it was high at the time I was there, early 2000s. I don't know. At the time of Thabo Mbeki, I didn't see it a lot, but they told me, and I read it, and I read that it's very high, to the point where I don't know if you remember, there was a well-known athlete from South Africa. He was a white guy. He didn't have legs like that. Um, I think he was at the Olympic game of oh God, this guy didn't have legs. He was wearing some prostheses, you say, and he was running with those, and I think it was a little bit controversial because people were talking about it like he was running in the place where, sorry, where people will be running normally. But the thing with him is like he had some prosthesis. Sorry, I don't happen to be the right word. I was kind of pushing, going faster. I think people were talking about it a little bit. What do I talk about him? And he shot his. I don't know if you remember. He had a fiance, and he shot her from in the bedroom from his bathroom. I remember. And the story was when he shot his beautiful lady, a blonde, South African, in their residential home, he shot her without even searching to know who was in the room. It showed me that how the level of violence and insecurity is in the sense that he was thinking that there was a breaking in his house. Okay, a house residential place with security system. I mean, how can you feel so not safe in your own place with all this to the point where he had a gun in his house? I just want to say that it shows you that maybe the country is not really in terms of security, you know, something they still have to see on that. I read that the level, I read that it's not me, rape, violence, and this are high. I don't know what the government is doing about that. On the other side, I also read that they are trying to implement laws like a law of for black people in favor of black people, like something like an affirmative action system, like to give black people more opportunities than white people. And you have more and more, you have a rise of black or white people being poor and poorer. And you see that how it is very uh, I saw a documentary about that there are many white people like homeless in South Africa, very poor. Some of them are very upset about the situation, and some of them are like, and what can I say? So I read the white people are very angry. Some of them are angry. They say it's not fair that they are paying for something that they didn't choose, they didn't decide in a way that the ancestor made some decision and blah blah blah. Others feel like yeah, in some ways they deserve it because yeah, their grandparents, their ancestors were responsible and they didn't fairly treated black people in their own land. So it's difficult. Yeah, I saw personally, I see a rise of many more black people becoming rich. As a matter of fact, I think I saw a TV reality TV of a young African rich and famous, and there were some South African who are very doing well, like financially, money, and not. not even talking about those who are very good in business, who are doing good business for a long time, all this. So I I think maybe there is a I think there is some kind of improvement, but when it comes to violence, and I think there is still some things that it makes sense to me because I watch documentaries and there's still work to do in a way. Other than that, there is also political parties, and but there is one political figure that is a little bit controversial to me. Controversial, I say. Not, I mean, he's kind of difficult to understand a little bit. I mean, I like uh, some of his speech when it comes to Pan African and when it comes to helping the population in a good way. But when it becomes a little bit close to hateful thought, I do not say he said, but it's sometimes, I mean, I talk about Julius Malema. He is very well known. I mean, even outside, he is very vocal. He's very, radical, and sometimes he has some speech that can, you say, oh, that's a lot, that's kind of, it can worry you a little bit, but that's, I don't know, maybe he's very supported in his country, I don't know, but he's one of the leaders in South Africa that we from the outside, we hear often about. He's very radical. Yes, you will say, but you just told us that you like Winnie Mandela who was radical, so why do you worry about speeches of Julius Malema? Then I will simply say, in his case, it's kind of different. For Winnie Mandela, it was also different. We have to admit that she was living a situation that was really, really oppressive and scary, and I don't know. She lost most of her, life as a wife, as a I will say it was too much. In his case, I mean, I can understand she was really that way, and radical. It depends on how type of radical you are. In his case, sometimes Malema is sometimes a little bit too much. Okay, a little bit too much sometimes. I'm not criticizing him. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Sometimes a little bit too much. But time will tell. Okay. So yeah, and I also read that they have problem of electricity. There is a lot of problem of electricity. I was just surprised because this is a very rich country, natural resources. How can the country have issue with electricity? And then, yeah, it's, of course, there are still white people who are rich in South Africa for sure. If you go to Cape Town, you know what I mean? Anyway. So yes, on the other side, yeah, I want to point something when it comes to history of the country. I didn't know much when I was young until when I went to my first year, my second year in high school. I subscribed to a magazine for young people, and then the type of magazine that my father was purchasing was buying for us at home. So I was kind of keeping the same dynamic of that magazine, because I like it a lot. And that magazine, I've learned and I discovered, I found a leader in South Africa, who was a little bit had kind of same background than Mandela was Gandhi. Gandhi. I don't understand why it looks like people do not talk a lot about Gandhi, because Gandhi also had uh, was a civil act. He was a civil right leader. Okay, he stood up for his people. He was a lawyer like Mandela, and I think he was killed by his people. I mean, someone of his people, his own people. But Gandhi, I don't know why people do not talk a lot about him. He also had a very important part, you know, but that maybe not that important, like because he was. I think the difference with Gandhi and Mandela, in my own understanding, is like Gandhi was fighting for his people only, okay, and I think for Mandela it was for everybody. That's why when you see in the picture when he's walking in Mandela, you see black, white, but also Indian, South African, and yes, it makes sense to me that maybe he was fighting for everybody. Gandhi was specifically with Indian people only, and maybe I'm wrong, but I never understood why Gandhi didn't join forces with maybe I don't. I mean, was it the same time? So I have to check it online. I don't know. Did they have they met? Were they fighting the? I think almost yeah. So I don't understand why they never. Did they cross? Did they met? Have they met? I don't know. It was maybe because it was in another part of South Africa. It's just interesting because I didn't see many of his statue like memorial. Yeah, I saw one when he was lawyer. They had a statue of him in somewhere in Braamfontein. They have an area called Braamfontein, Johannesburg, where you have the Gandhi Square. Gandhi Square is where you go to buy your. At the time, I don't know if it changed. We were going to buy the stuff for our the tag for the bus transportation, and he was standing in the middle of Gandhi Square. I mean, you understand, you already hear the name Gandhi Square. And I don't know, I have so much emotion when I talk about these people because I don't know if you have this kind of people the years to come again. We had great leaders in the 90s, 80s, 70s. It's just they were fighting for the right cause. And these people laid their lives for freedom, for a better life for them. They were not selfish. And I don't know if you have this kind of people again in our history. I I don't know. It gives me so much of emotion, and I don't know. I see these people on magazine. I see them, and it's just a great heart to stand up and to fight for a cause that everyone, will benefit. And yes, Mandela is still Mandela to us. I mean, I put him like at this pedestal. I mean, like the other African leaders that I like Patrice Lumumba, like Thomas Sankara, like the difference that Thomas Sankara was a Pan-African, like really Pan-African. Like I like Lumumba a lot. I like these people who stood up for their people. They are brave people. Sometimes I think about this movie of Mel Gibson, Braveheart. If you watch that movie, this movie, you know, it's very touching. It shows that how when people have are thirsty for freedom, there is nothing that can stop them, even if the system is so oppressive. You know, they will do anything for freedom. Okay, thank you, and I will see you for the next video talking about if I've seen or if I've heard about who Princess Diana. Princess Diana. Yeah.